dreamt for so long as I awaited.
It's been a long while.
Handed over that thing.
Hey guys, Thingfishy here. Happy New Year! And while the crushing wait for any DLC news continues, it's time for a new series. Back in December, I asked you what you'd like to see from me. And by far the most popular contribution was this idea from Windmill. A series on how to use each of Elden Ring's starting classes optimally. So in this series, I'll be doing runs with each of the starting characters, keeping to the same equipment classes, and seeing how powerful I can make them. And as I've already filmed most of this, I can tell you that the answer to that is very powerful. You'll be shocked how good some of these are. So first up is the Confessor class. We have a seal, a short sword, and a medium shield. Now the obvious thing to do with the Confessor is a strength faith build. But as I really wanted to make the incantation side of this setup as powerful as possible, I decided to infuse my broadsword, which is the best straight sword for our purposes on this run, with a flame art infusion, giving it fire damage and some faith scaling. To do this, before following my standard setup guide to grab all of the flasks and weapon upgrades, I headed into Caelid and towards Redmane Castle. Climb up the cliffs and into the castle. When you get to the flamethrower dudes before the Grace, take a left and head straight into this building to grab the red hot wet blade. While you're at the castle, head this way from the Grace outside to grab Crag Blade for some extra raw and posture damage. Grab the whetstone blade from the cellar near the gatefront Grace, then infuse your broadsword with flame art Crag Blade. Then you can do the rest of the setup. After that, we pick up the action here at Lena's Rise in Caelid, jumping onto the side of the bridge and quitting out in front of this hole in the wall. The Knight's Cavalry will usually jump at you as soon as you load in, but be ready to quickly quit out if he doesn't. Now to Fort Fareth to kill the big sleeping dragon with the Morning Star and the blood grease from the setup. Use a foul foot just after the last hit for some extra runes. Head back to the round table and buy all the smithing stones you need to level the Erdtree seal to +6 and the broadsword to +16. For this series, as there's quite a few new players to Elden Ring at the moment, I tried to keep these builds relatively balanced instead of strolling into the late game with 15 vigour like usual. This one is the least forgiving health wise, but it has the damage to make up for it in the early to mid game. Now to the Church of Pilgrimage in Weeping and down the cliffs to the southeast to grab the Faith tier. Then to the Road of Iniquity in Mount Gelmir and across the battlefield to grab Golden Vow from the Shack. Next to Volcano Manor. Follow this route from the Prison Town Church to grab our seal for the game, the Erdtree seal. Head to the Seathwater Terminus in Mount Gelmir and into Fort Lyde, all the way up to the roof for the Fire Scorpion Charm. Then back to Caelid to Fort Gale. Ride round the back to grab Flame Grant Me Strength. Now to the putrefied ruins in Liurnia for the Two-Finger Heirloom. Next to the Rockview balcony and towards the minor Erdtree. Let's see what this fire broadsword is like. Erdtree avatars are very weak to fire, but this looks really good. Now for a spell we need to grab for our next item. Head up to the Frenzied Flame village and through it to find this scarab. Kill it for Frenzied Bolt. So that we can parry with medium shield in the most confessory way, head up to the stairs of Lanedale until you see this scarab chilling on the ledge. Keep him in the centre of your screen and snipe him for my least favourite parry Ash of War, the Golden Parry. So now we have our build, time for Margit. Were it not for the missed parries here that I won't yet blame on the Ash of War, this would have been one of the most perfect Margit fights on this channel. Now for Godric. By just hitting R1s with the broadsword, his health disappears very quickly. And because of Crackblade, you'll even get a stagger pretty fast too. As this build is looking pretty powerful, I headed straight for Radahn. If you're relatively new to Elden Ring, I'd recommend clearing Rare Lucaria at this point for some extra vigour levels. By jumping off this cliff near the Church of the Plague and delaying your second jump for as long as possible, you can resurrect outside Radahn's arena, skipping Redmane Castle and allowing you to fight Radahn in the daytime, which is pretty cool. So what does the Confessor starting sword do to Radahn? Well, for reference while you're watching this fight, I've done a couple of videos where I fought Radahn at a very similar level to this with Carian Slicer, widely regarded as being one of the most broken spells in the game, and the Flame Broadsword feels pretty similar in terms of damage. After fighting Radahn early, we can head to the Walking Mausoleum in Weeping Peninsula to duplicate his remembrance for some extra runes. Head back to the Round Table and grab your third talisman pouch from Enya. To fill it, ride north from the Outer's Plateau Grace to kill the Demi-Human Queen for the Ritual Sword talisman. Now, unfortunately, it's time to talk about the Golden Parry. For the majority of you who weren't around for the very start of my channel, my first Elden Ring series was a very nerdy look at Elden Ring's parry tools, and a quest to find the best one. A recurring theme of that series was my dislike of the Golden Parry Ash of War, despite the data later suggesting it's the best parry tool in the game. And I'm afraid nothing's changed. I parry a lot on basically every build I make, and the vast majority of boss parry timings are just locked into my muscle memory these days. If I had to stake everything I own on parrying one boss in this game perfectly, it would either be Malenia or the Draconic Tree Sentinels. This overhead attack in particular is so consistent I genuinely can't remember the last time I missed it. But with the golden parry, I missed it twice in 30 seconds and ran out of heals. So the golden parry is going in the bin. To replace it, head back to Carian Manor for Loretta. Carian Retaliation, for my money, is the best parry Asher wore in Elden Ring. And you can get it at the start of every playthrough by running into the corner of Loretta's arena and quitting out to disable her AI. With a decent Asher War equipped, balance was restored. The broadsword is excellent for dealing with the tree sentinels. Single R1 after a parry, couple of steps forward, and then another 2. At this point, I wanted to boost the incantation side of this build, and the first step in that is killing Commander Nile. There's 2 ways of doing this. The first is the simplest, just run in there, attack Nile, go for some parries, and hope for the best. For a slightly longer but much more consistent setup, snipe the soldiers with Frenzied Bolt from Torrent. If the damage looks shit here, I thought the same, not realising it was due to some idiot forgetting to level up his seal. When the first batch of soldiers are dead, you can easily kill Nile before the axe guys spawn. Give the needle he drops to Gowry for repair, then give it to Millicent. Speak to her in Gowry's shack, then head to the shaded castle in Altus, heading left after the first ladder to grab the Valkyrie's prosthesis. Give this to Millicent, and now unfortunately she has to die. Here's a little tip: if you're ever trying to kill a friendly NPC with a faith build, make sure you cast Golden Vow away from them, otherwise you'll buff them before fighting them. While we're in this area, head up past the Mariner to the Wyndham Ruins. Run through this dungeon until you reach the Stone Sword Key Gate, and through it for the Lightning Scorpion charm. When Millicent dies, you'll find Gowry crying in his shack. Kill him for the best faith talisman in the game. Now for some spell shopping. Head to the Artist Shack in Liurnia first. The knight patrolling nearby drops the Lightning Prayer Book. Then back to Stormvale, through the courtyard and into the cellar with the rats, through the Stone Sword Key Gate to grab the Godskin Prayer Book in the chest on the right. Now back to the Artist Shack and ride north to the Church of Vows to speak to Turtle Pope and buy Black Flame and Lightning Spear. At any point in this run, you can also buy Catch Flame, one of the most powerful incantations in the game, from Corin at the Round Table. Back to the capital then for Godfrey. Two-hand the broadsword and hit him with 1 or 2 quick attacks between his combos, depending on how comfortable you are with the fight. Thanks to Crackblade, you'll even get a stagger when his health is low. For Morgott, I switched between quick attacks with the broadsword and casting Black Flame with the seal. The Erdtree seal is still unupgraded here, as I still hadn't noticed yet, so you can expect an even easier time than this. Chucking Black Flame at him during his transition is a really nice idea, as the percentage base damage will still deplete his health. For phase 2, use the opportunities from his blood attacks for an easy win. Keep hold of Morgoth's runes as you travel to the mountaintops. The first stop is to the Zamor ruins to grab the Smithing Bell Bearing 3 from this cellar. On your way out of Zamor, snipe the scarab out of the tree for a somber 7. Then across the bridge to the Freezing Lake Grace, where you can bait the nearby golem into attacking this stone for some smithing 7s. Then ride across the lake towards the first church of Marika for more on the cliff right next to it. Back to the round table to buy 10 smithing 6s from the Twin Maiden husks, then level the broadsword to plus 20. And finally I realised I hadn't upgraded the seal, which we can now get to plus 9. Now for Fire Giant, and this is going to be a massacre. Fire Giant's flame resistance means that our broadsword is useless, but we have pest threats. This incantation is probably the most powerful thing in the game for dealing with big enemies. If you want even more damage from it, you could get naked and use the blue dancer charm, but it's not really necessary. In Farum Azula, grab the Ancient Dragon Prayer Book in the room before the Tempest-facing balcony grace. Then head through the rest of the level to the Dragon Temple transept. A quick visit back to Turtle Pope to grab Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. Now back to Liurnia for the Lightning Shrouding tier. I decided not to use Catch Flame too much on this run, but here's what it does to a tree avatar. Put them both to sleep, then cast Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike for a very easy fight. After this fight, you can head back to the round table to level both of your weapons to max. Beast Clergyman is one of the tougher fights on this run if you don't know his moveset too well, as there isn't anything super cheesy for this. Just keep it to R1s between his attacks and capitalise on that long dragging sweep by getting behind him and spamming R1s. You'll be fine. For Malekith, you can actually one-shot him with Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike on that first attack. I got super unlucky with the hitbox here, but the broadsword is good enough for you not to struggle too much. Now for the worst boss ever made, and I was enjoying the broadsword so much that I actually wanted to fight Gideon straight up here. Nah, just kidding. For an item that we'll need later, head down the crater in Limgrave to Nokron. You can cheese the Mimic boss by unequipping all your weapons until it has spawned, then re-equipping them. As we have pest threads on this build, we can go for an early Plassey. The key thing to bear in mind when using this spell is you have to be as close as possible for maximum damage. It really sucks at range. Now, because of how strong this build felt, I wanted to try and tackle some of the late game bosses a little earlier. So I headed first to Castle Sol for Commander Nile. The sword one-shots the summons with a backstab, even without Crackblade. And this was pretty surprising actually, because there's plenty of big weapons that can't do that. Buff with Crackblade when they're dead, then dodge into Nile's electric foot for a parry. Take the riposte, then back away for the big tornado attack. Dodge this, then you can wail on Nile for the majority of his health in one attack. Head through the snowfields all the way to Ordner Town, then ride north until you're invaded by the Sanguine Noble. Run past the teleporter and jump on this ledge to cheese the invader. So the broadsword is rendered useless by Mohg's fire resistance, but once again we have pest threads. Cast this in between Mohg's attacks and through Nihil for a very easy early Mohg fight. Now back to Ordner Town and Ordner Skip. I haven't shown this for a while, so jump on this pillar, line your compass up to the right of this notch, then do 2 jumps with the direction order 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock. It's a hard skip and it can take a couple of attempts even if you do it every run. Run through the Haligtree all the way to Loretta. Treat her just like the previous Draconic Tree Sentinels and spam R1 between parries. Then back to the main game, for Godfrey. I decided a change of fashion was in order for this fight, and the Silver Tear mask just looked pretty cool. Hit him with quick attacks between his combos, just like the Shade earlier. I usually try to stagger Hoaraloo at the start of phase 2, but that's not very easily done with a short sword. And finally, Melania. As we have a maxed out Faith character, there's nothing stopping you from killing her in 30 seconds with Flame of the Fell God and Burno Flame. Check out this video if that sounds appetizing. However, I wanted to see how the Confessor's starting sword held up against the strongest boss in the Lands Between. And the answer to that is amazingly well. You've probably noticed that I've ditched the armor here for my easy waterfowl dodge. With a light roll, you can dodge waterfowl by waiting until she is stationary in the air, then rolling back 3 times to dodge the first 2 flurries. For the rest of the attack, 3 rolls, 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And that's it, how to make an optimized Confessor build. Subscribe if you want to see the other classes, and if you try this build, please let me know how you got on in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. See you soon.